What if I told you that the voice you hear in your head, that incessant narrator who comments, judges, fears, and remembers, is not the totality of your mind? And what if, beyond the chatter of your thoughts and the echoes of your past, another mind existed? A vast, silent mind of unimaginable intelligence. Throughout your life, you have lived in the valley of your personal mind. It is a familiar place, defined by the mountains of your beliefs and the rivers of your memories. In this valley, every thought is an echo of something that has already been. You operate with the data of your past, reacting, planning, and struggling within the limits of a known territory. But this valley, however vast it may seem, is not all that you are. Beyond its borders lies an ocean of pure intelligence, boundless and timeless, the source of all genius, all inspiration, every eureka moment that has illuminated human history. The mystics have called it the mind of God, the sages universal consciousness. We will call it superconsciousness. And the deepest secret, the one this audiobook has come to reveal to you, is that this ocean is not outside of you. It is the deepest dimension of your own being. It is not something you must achieve. It is something you must remember. This is not a manual for thinking better. It is a guide for learning to listen better. It is a journey to silence the noise of the valley so that you can at last hear the serene roar of the ocean. You will learn that intuition is not a whim, but the language of this higher mind. That synchronicities are not coincidences, but the visible orchestration of its invisible intelligence. You will not be asked to struggle or make an effort. You will be asked to surrender, to empty yourself, to become the channel through which this wisdom can flow, guiding your life with a grace and precision that your personal mind could never conceive. Chapter 1, Level 1, The Valley of Echoes. Most of our lives do not take place in the vastness of the ocean of infinite consciousness, but in a much smaller, more predictable, and, in its familiarity, safer place. We live in the Valley of Echoes. This valley is your personal mind, your subconscious. It is not a hostile prison. It is your original home. It is a place of immense beauty and complexity, a landscape carved over decades by the river of your own history. Its high walls are formed by your deepest beliefs. Its climate is dictated by your habitual emotions. And its landscape is populated by the ghosts of your most potent memories. And this valley has a single, fundamental acoustic property. Everything you say in it, everything you feel in it, is returned to you with impeccable precision. The echoes of this valley are the patterns of thought, feeling, and behavior that repeat incessantly in your life. They are the soundtrack of your existence, the background music you often no longer even hear, but which dictates the rhythm of your dance. The echo of worry that resonates every time you think about the future. The echo of self-criticism that automatically responds to every mistake you make. The echo of doubt that arises like a cold fog before every new opportunity. These echoes are not random. They are not the truth. They are recordings. They are the voices of your parents, your teachers, your past wounds that were recorded on the walls of your valley when they were still soft and malleable in your childhood. And now your own voice, in singing the song of your daily life by simply thinking, activates these old recordings, creating a cycle of endless repetition. The tragedy of living in the Valley of Echoes is that after a while we come to believe that the echoes are the only music that exists. We confuse the reflection with the source. We come to believe that worry, doubt, and struggle are not echoes of our past, but the fundamental nature of reality itself. The acoustics of the valley. Belief as geometry. Why are certain echoes stronger than others? Why does the echo of scarcity in your life resonate with such force, while that of abundance seems to fade into the air? The answer lies in the geometry of the valley. The walls of your valley, your fundamental beliefs, are not smooth. They have a specific shape, a unique architecture carved by your earliest and most intense experiences. And this shape determines which frequencies are amplified and which are absorbed and silenced. If the walls of your valley are carved with the deep belief, I am not enough, any self-critical thought you emit will be amplified 1,000-fold, bouncing from wall to wall until it becomes a deafening roar that validates the belief. But a thought of self-love, finding no resonant surface, not fitting the valley's geometry, will be absorbed and silenced almost instantly. If the geometry of your valley is based on the belief the world is a dangerous place, the frequency of fear will find countless surfaces to bounce off and grow, while the frequency of trust will be lost in nothingness. You cannot change the echo by shouting at it. Trying to think positive in a valley designed to amplify negativity is an exhausting and ultimately futile effort. It's like trying to sing a cheerful song in a cathedral, designed to amplify funeral dirges. The acoustics will always win. The only way to change the music permanently is to change the shape of the valley. The allegory of the valley dweller. Imagine a person who was born and has lived all his life in this valley. He has never known the external world, the vast ocean of consciousness. For him, the only music that exists is the echo of his valley. He has learned to live with them. He has grown accustomed to the melancholic melody of worry and the constant rhythm of self-criticism. Sometimes he feels inspired. He tries to compose. He sings a new melody, one of hope, of possibility, and for an instant he hears it pure and clear. But soon the valley returns its old familiar echoes of doubt and fear, and his new song is drowned out in the cacophony. Frustrated, he tries to shout louder, attempting to impose his new melody over the echoes. But this only makes the echoes return with more force, because he has put more energy into the valley. Desperate and exhausted, he finally surrenders. He accepts that his destiny is to live with the music he has been given. He does not realize that he is not a prisoner of the music, but of the geography. He does not realize that, beyond the high imposing walls of his personal valley, there lies a silent ocean, the superconsciousness, from which a completely new symphony can be composed, one that is not an echo, but an original creation. This is the human condition for most. Trapped in the valley of our personal mind, we spend our lives reacting to the echoes of our own past, convinced that that is the only reality. But you are no longer the majority. You have undertaken this journey, and now you are standing in the center of your valley, not as a prisoner, but as a geologist, a cartographer, ready to study its walls and finally to find the exit. The first practice, silent observation, activating the witness. Here lies the first great paradox of this journey. You do not leave the valley by fighting it. You do not escape by trying to tear down its walls. The first step to transcending the valley is to become its master. And the first step to becoming its master is to become its most attentive listener. To stop being the echo, you must first realize that you are not it. You must learn to differentiate your true self, the silent consciousness that listens, from the noise of the echo, your automatic programmed thoughts. You now enter the workshop of the listener. Your first practice is not to change anything. It is not to fight. It is not to affirm. It is simply to listen. You become the scientist of your own consciousness, the anthropologist of your own inner tribe. The pause ritual. Several times a day, you commit to pausing. You create an instant of silence, and instead of being swept away by the incessant torrent of thoughts, you take a step back mentally and become the observer. The neutral label. You observe the dominant thought crossing your mind in that instant, and without judgment, without drama, with the calm of a librarian cataloguing a book, you label it. A thought of worry about the future. The echo of self-criticism for something I said yesterday. The old story of scarcity, activated by this bill. This simple act of naming is an act of immense power. It creates a separation. The moment you can observe the thought, you realize a truth that changes everything. If you can observe it, you cannot be it. You are the silent consciousness that is aware of the noise. You have ceased to be the prisoner in the cell and have become the observer watching the prisoner. The second practice, the echoes journal, the transcription of the symphony. To make this process more tangible, and so your logical mind cannot deny the patterns, you take your observation to your journal. You become the musicologist who transcribes the symphony of your valley, the transcription protocol. Every night you dedicate 5 or 10 minutes to writing down the greatest hits of the day. You ask yourself, the transcription, what were the 3 most recurring echoes, the 3 mental songs today? Was it the song of doubt about your new project? Resentment toward that person? The anxiety of not having enough time? The acoustic analysis. Next to each echo, you write down the emotion that accompanied it, and if you can, the physical sensation. For example, echo, I won't be able to pay this bill. Feeling anxiety. Sensation, a knot in the stomach. Tense shoulders. You are starting to understand the direct connection between the acoustics of your valley, your thoughts, and the climate of your being. your emotions and body. This practice, sustained over time, is of immense power. It makes the invisible visible. It shows you the script you have been reciting without realizing it. The automaton can no longer operate in the dark. You have turned all the lights on. The third practice, stopping the feeding of the echo, the attention fast. An echo only persists if you keep shouting. Your attention is the shout. Your belief in the thought, your act of latching onto its story, is the energy that keeps it bouncing off the walls of your valley. Your final practice at this level is to withdraw your energy. It is the art of starving the ghosts. When the echo of worry appears, you no longer latch onto its story. You don't debate with it. You do the following. Observe it. The echo of worry. Thank it, the master's move. With an act of alchemy, you thank the thought. Thank you for trying to protect me. I see you. This act of gratitude completely disarms the energy of resistance. Pivot gently, and with a gentle firmness, you withdraw your attention from the thought story and return it to one of three anchors in the present moment. Your breath, your body, or an external sound. You do not fight the echo. You simply stop giving it your attention. You stop feeding it. A thought, deprived of the fuel of your belief and your attention, is like a fire without wood. At first it may continue to smolder, but if you persist in not giving it more fuel, it will inevitably extinguish. Chapter 2. The Veil of Forgetting. The veil of forgetting is not a punishment. It is not a cosmic error. It is not a fall from grace. It is a mechanism. It is a sacred tool that universal consciousness uses to be able to have a localized, individual, and meaningful experience of itself. Imagine the pure white light of the sun. In its unified state, it is perfect, whole, formless. It contains all the colors of the rainbow, but expresses none in particular. To be able to experience the exquisite beauty of red, the serenity of blue, the vitality of green, this white light must pass through a prism. The prism does not destroy the light. It divides it, refracts it, focuses it into its individual components, allowing each color to manifest in its unique glory. Your ego, your sense of a personal, separate self, is that prism. Superconsciousness in its pure state is the white light, infinite, formless, boundless. To be able to experience itself as you, with your unique history, your particular gifts, your specific challenges, it must pass through the prism of the ego. The ego is the mechanism that takes infinite consciousness and focuses it into a finite, localized experience in time and space. The veil of forgetting is the inevitable consequence of this focusing process. To be fully you, to be able to live the human adventure with all its intensity, you must for a time forget that you are the sun. You must identify completely with the individual ray of light. You must believe with absolute conviction in the reality of separation, in the solidity of the world, in the linearity of time. You must forget that you are the dreamer to be able to take the dream's character seriously. The sacred function of the veil. This forgetting is not a tragedy. It is the prerequisite for the game. What would be the point of playing a mystery game if you already know who the killer is? What thrill would there be in an adventure if you knew you were invulnerable and that the treasure was already yours? The veil is what allows you to experience the beauty of contrast. Only through the darkness of ignorance can you experience the blinding joy of revelation. Only through the silence of solitude can you know the music of connection. Contrast is what gives life texture and meaning. The veil is what gives you a purpose, the hero's journey, the path of awakening, the process of remembering your own divinity. The greatest adventure in the universe is not to create worlds, but for the Creator to forget himself in order to have the joy of remembering himself. And perhaps the most beautiful thing of all, the veil is what allows you to experience the most exquisite form of love, love between two beings who, although one in essence, have forgotten their unity in order to have the sacred joy of meeting again, recognizing each other, choosing each other. Separation is the precondition for the joy of union. The ego, the veil of forgetting, is not your enemy. It is the costume your soul enthusiastically chose to wear in order to participate in the magnificent play of life. When the veil becomes a prison, the problem, the source of all human suffering, is not that the veil exists, The problem is that we have forgotten that it is a veil. We have identified so deeply with the costume that we have forgotten the actor who wears it. The tool has become the master. The prism has become a prison. When we completely identify with the ego, with our separate, limited self, the world becomes a terrifying place full of lack. Death becomes an absolute, terrifying end, the annihilation of our being, instead of a simple change of costume, a transition of consciousness from one form to another. The other becomes a competitor for limited resources, a threat to our security, or a judge of our worth, instead of another expression of our own self with whom we can dance and learn. Living identified with the ego is living as a drop of the ocean that has forgotten it is the ocean, and that spends its brief existence fearing the other drops and the waves that it itself is helping to create. The first practice, the art of de-identification, the path of the neti. To be able to see through the ego's veil, you must first stop believing you are the veil. Your practice is conscious de-identification. It is the path of the negative way, taught by the great sages of India with the phrase neti. Neti, which means not this, not this. It is a process of elimination, of stripping away all the false labels to discover what remains, what is immutable. Your practice is a self-inquiry meditation. You sit in silence. You close your eyes, and you begin the process of stripping away your masks, your costumes, layer by layer. You observe your thoughts. You do not cling to them. You simply observe them as a cloud crossing the vast sky of your consciousness. And you tell yourself with a quiet certainty, I am aware of this thought, therefore I am not this thought. You observe your emotions. When an emotion floods your body, you feel it fully without resistance. But you remind yourself, I am aware of this emotion, therefore I am not this emotion. You observe your body and your roles. I am aware of this body, therefore I am not this body. I am aware of these roles, of these stories, therefore I am not these roles. With every act of negation, you strip away a layer of your conditioned identity. And little by little, as the clouds of identification dissipate, you begin to experience what remains. The blue sky of pure consciousness, the silent witness, the empty space that is aware of everything else. You have found the actor behind all the costumes. At the second practice, the question of the soul, the sword of inquiry, the great 20th century sage, Ramana Maharshi, taught the most direct and cutting path to tear the veil. A single question, held in the heart, that acts as a sword of light to cut the knots of identification with the ego. The question is, who am I? Koham in Sanskrit. It is not a question to be answered by the logical mind. The mind can only offer you more labels, more costumes. It is a question that is sustained in silence, as a tool of inquiry to dissolve the illusion. It is a question that does not seek an answer, but dissolves the questioner. When a thought of fear or anger arises, you stop the story and ask, who is the one who is afraid? Who is the one that this anger arises in? When the ego feels offended by a comment or flattered by a compliment, you ask, who is the one who feels offended? Who is the one who is proud? By asking this question over and over, your attention is diverted from the object of the experience, the thought, the emotion, the character, to the subject of the experience, the consciousness that is aware. And in searching for this I that thinks, this I that feels, you discover that you cannot find it. There is no solid thing. There is no fixed center. There is only consciousness. And in that discovery, in that failure of the mind to find itself as an object, the veil becomes transparent. And the third practice, living with the torn veil, the dance of consciousness. Lifting the veil does not mean that the ego disappears. The prism is still there. The costume is still in the closet. It means that your relationship with it changes forever. You stop being its unconscious slave and become its compassionate observer and master. The ego is no longer the king. It is the first minister, a useful servant who no longer holds the final power. The character and the actor. You begin to live your life as a great actor who knows he is playing a role. You play the role of your name with total excellence and presence, feeling all its joys and sorrows, pursuing its goals, learning its lessons. But inside, there is a part of you, the actor, that remains calm, observing the play with a serene smile, knowing that he is not the character. This detachment gives you immense freedom. You no longer take life's dramas so personally. The character's failures no longer threaten your being. The divine game, Lila. Life ceases to be a serious battle for survival and becomes a game, Lila, the divine game. You know that behind the veil you are the infinite consciousness that is dreaming this experience, and you begin to play the game with a new lightness, a new curiosity, a new joy. Challenges become interesting puzzles, not existential threats. Relationships become dances, not contracts of need. Work becomes a form of expression, not a burden. Chapter 3. The Ocean of Genius. You have learned to de-identify from the story so that you can, at last, begin to write a new one. Now, with this new understanding, we are ready to ask the most important question of all: what lies beyond the veil? If the ego is only the costume, who is the actor? If our personal mind is only the valley of echoes, what lies beyond its high and limiting mountains? We must now immerse ourselves in the source of all wisdom, all inspiration and all power. We must explore the nature of the mind beyond the mind. We must dive into the ocean of genius. To understand superconsciousness, we must use the oldest and most perfect metaphor of all, that of the ocean and the wave. Your personal mind, your ego, your intellect, your memories, your beliefs, everything contained in the Valley of Echoes is the wave. It has a defined shape, a unique appearance. It has a beginning and an end. It experiences itself as a separate entity, distinct from the other waves and from the vast sea on which it moves. The superconsciousness is the ocean. It is vast, deep, formless, without beginning or end. It is timeless. It is not in one place. It is everywhere. It is the very substance of which all waves are made. The greatest illusion of the wave is to believe that it is merely in the ocean. The truth is that the wave is the ocean, expressing itself in a temporary, localized form. Its separation is an illusion of perspective, a momentary dance on the surface of an infinite totality. You are that wave, and the veil of forgetting is what has made you believe that you are only the form, the superficial movement, forgetting the deep, silent, and eternal substance of which you are made. This chapter is the invitation to remember that you are the ocean. The nature of the ocean. What is superconsciousness? Superconsciousness is not simply more mind or a smarter thought. It is an entirely different order of intelligence, as distinct from your logical mind as an ocean is from a drop of water. It is the source of genius. Where do the ideas that change the world come from? Where does the symphony that moves the soul or the equation that redefines the cosmos originate? They do not arise from the Valley of Echoes. The valley, your personal mind, can only repeat and recombine what has already been recorded on its walls. When Mozart claimed that symphonies came to his mind complete, he was not composing. He was receiving a download from the ocean. Genius is not a greater intellectual capacity, it is a greater capacity for receptivity. It is the ability of a wave to quiet itself enough to feel the wisdom of the entire ocean. It is impersonal and universal. Unlike your personal mind, which is colored by your fears and desires, the superconsciousness is impersonal. It has no ego. It does not judge. It is a field of pure, neutral, and benevolent intelligence, accessible to everyone equally. It is the source of all that is new. Your personal mind is an archive of the past. The superconsciousness, in contrast, is the only source of anything truly new. It is the realm of pure potentiality, the fertile void where solutions to problems that your personal mind does not even know it has are waiting. Connecting with the ocean of genius is an experience of expansion. You feel a surge of inspiration. You receive an idea that seems to come out of nowhere and that solves a problem in an elegant and simple way. You feel a calm and certainty that is not based on any external evidence. It is the sensation of being connected to something infinitely larger and wiser than your small self. The first practice, silencing the valley, the art of receptive stillness. How do you silence the echo of the valley to hear the sound of the ocean? Your fundamental practice is not to seek superconsciousness with effort. It is to create the space of silence in which superconsciousness can be heard. Meditation is listening. Your meditation practice transforms. You no longer sit to control your thoughts or even to observe them as a scientist. You sit to listen. You are the coast dweller who sits on the sand at dusk, not to shout at the sea, but to listen to its murmur. Every thought that arises from the valley is an echo. You do not fight it. You simply observe it pass and return your attention to the vast silence that lies behind it, to the sound of the ocean, the creation of the vessel. Silence is not an absence. It is a receptivity. You are creating a vessel with your consciousness. You are stopping being the one who shouts in the valley, and you are becoming the one who holds an empty cup, waiting with serene patience for the rain of inspiration to fill it. The second practice, asking the ocean, the sacred question. Once you have cultivated the stillness, you can begin to dialogue with the ocean. It is not a dialogue of words, but of intention. Your practice is the sacred question. This is an act of conscious creation, a form of scientific prayer to receive information and guidance. The clarity of the question. You take a problem or a question that your personal mind cannot answer, and in your meditative state, you formulate the question with the greatest possible clarity. Not, I want to be happy, but what is the next step to express my purpose with joy? The handover. Then you perform an act of handover. You imagine you deposit that question gently into the ocean of consciousness. You release it. You hand it over to the wellspring of genius with absolute faith. You say inwardly, Superconsciousness, universal mind, I hand this question over to you. I trust your infinite wisdom to deliver the perfect solution to me at the perfect time. My work is done. The letting go. Crucially, you completely let go of the need for an immediate answer. You do not try to solve the problem with your logical mind. You have made the request. Your only job now is to be attentive and receptive to the answer, trusting that the ocean which holds all answers will return it to you through its currents. The third practice, recognizing the treasure, the art of reception. After making the request, you must be attentive to receive the answer. The ocean will not shout the solution to you through a loudspeaker. It will send it to you through the subtle currents of consciousness. The practice is one of open attention. The download from the superconsciousness can arrive through multiple channels, often when you least expect it. The intuitive flash. The answer may arrive as a eureka moment, a sudden certainty, an idea that appears when you are relaxed in the shower or just upon waking. It is a direct download of wisdom, the dream symbol. The solution may be delivered to you in the symbolic language of a dream. The synchronic message. The answer may appear externally, in a conversation you overhear, in a book that falls off a shelf, in a song on the radio at the perfect moment. The key is to be in a state of relaxed expectation, trusting that the answer will arrive in the perfect form for you. The initiate learns to keep an ocean journal, noting these intuitions, dreams, and synchronicities to strengthen his trust in this sacred dialogue. Chapter 4. The Whisper of the Inner Sage, Intuition. In the Valley of Echoes in your personal mind, intuition is often confused with a hunch, a gut feeling, an emotional impulse, or a simple lucky guess. But intuition in its purest form is none of those things. It is not an emotion. It is not a thought. True intuition is a direct download from the superconsciousness. It is the ocean speaking to the wave without intermediaries. It is a transmission of pure information that bypasses the filter of your personal memory or conditioned logic. It is the language of the inner sage, the part of you that has never forgotten that it is the ocean. The problem is that we have been conditioned to be deaf to this language. We live in a civilization that glorifies the noise of the intellect. If you can't explain it, if you can't prove it with data, if you can't trace its logic step by step, we are taught, then it's not real, it's not trustworthy. And by worshipping at the altar of the analytical mind, we have closed the most important communication channel we possess. We have chosen to listen to the noisy, anxious, and often wrong advisor of the ego, and we have ignored the silent sage who resides in the sanctuary of our own heart. The anatomy of the ego's shout, the traumatized advisor. The voice of your ego, your conditioned personal mind, is a shouter. It is not malicious. It is fearful. Its main goal is survival, to keep you safe within the familiar walls of the valley. And its main tool is panic. To capture your attention and make sure you don't take risks, it needs to be loud, urgent, and dramatic. It is noisy and repetitive, the broken record of panic. The ego's voice is a loop, an obsessive thought, It is the catastrophic what-if that assails you at 3 a.m. Its volume is high because its strategy is flooding. It needs to drown out any other possibility, any other whisper of a higher truth. The repetition is its attempt to control an uncontrollable future. It is contractive, the embrace of fear. The ego always produces a feeling of contraction in your body. It is a visceral, somatic no. It is the language of closing, of armor. Pause now. Think of a bill that worries you. Feel your body. Feel how your shoulders hunch, how your jaw clenches, how your stomach turns into a knot. That is the signature of the ego. Your body is shrinking, preparing for an impact, closing its channels. It is logical and based on the past, the frightened historian. Fear masquerades as reason and prudence. It justifies its warnings with the irrefutable evidence of your past failures. Its logic is the impeccable logic of a prisoner who can only conceive of a future that is a repetition of his cell walls. It is urgent and demanding, the tyrant of the now. The ego is always in a hurry. Its energy is frantic. You have to decide now. This false urgency is a hijacking tactic. It is designed to prevent you from pausing, from having time to connect with the stillness where true wisdom resides. The anatomy of the sage's whisper, true intuition. Intuition, the voice of the superconsciousness, operates in a completely opposite way. It is not a program from the past. It is a signal from the now. It is the voice of wisdom and expansion, not survival. It does not need to shout because its power does not reside in volume, but in the resonance of truth. It is silent and singular, the gemstone flash. Intuition is not a thought loop. It is a flash. It is an instantaneous knowing, a download of wisdom that appears in your consciousness in a moment of stillness. It often comes only once, with absolute calm and certainty. It does not debate, it does not argue. It simply presents its truth, like a master who speaks a single sentence and then remains silent. It is expansive, the breath of life. Intuition always produces a feeling of expansion in your body. It is a cellular yes. Think of an idea that genuinely excites you. Feel that lightness, that openness in your chest. Even if the guidance frightens you on a logical level, leave your safe job. The underlying bodily sensation is one of resonance. It is the feeling of freedom, not constriction. It is often non-linear and focused on potential, the eagle's vision. Intuition is not limited by the data of your past. It will often guide you toward paths that your logical mind considers impossible or irrational. It doesn't tell you what is safe. It shows you what is possible. It is patient and serene, the sovereign's invitation. Intuition is not an alarm. It is an invitation. It is the sovereign who approaches, whispers the truth in your ear and then withdraws, waiting with infinite patience for you to make the decision. It does not push you. It guides you. It respects your sovereignty. The first practice, the cultivation of receptive stillness. The first and most fundamental act to hear a whisper is to create silence. The inner sage will not compete with the shouting of your ego. It will wait with infinite patience for you to offer it a space of stillness. Your practice is to cultivate the silence in which intuition can at last be heard. Meditation as listening. Your meditation practice transforms. You sit with the intention of listening. You are the host who prepares the house in an expectant, loving silence. You focus on your breath to calm the system, and then ask an open question. Inner wisdom, what most needs my attention today? And then you let go of the question. You simply open yourself, you become a receptive space, listening not with your ears but with your whole body. Nature as an amplifier. You spend time in nature, in silence. A silent walk without distractions is one of the most potent acts you can perform to quiet the ego's echoes and amplify the whisper of the sage. The second practice, the body compass, the somatic oracle. To validate the whisper, you consult your most faithful and incorruptible oracle, your own body. Your practice is somatic consultation. Faced with a decision or an intuitive impulse, you perform a resonance check. Center yourself, sit, close your eyes, and take 3 deep breaths. Present the option. Bring the idea of the action to your mind. Scan. Bring all your attention to your body. Do you feel expansion, openness, lightness, or contraction and not tension. Your practice is to honor the answer of this compass, above all the arguments of reason. Your body's yes is a more reliable guide than your mind's yes. The third practice, the Journal of Whispers, your book of evidence. To learn to trust guidance, you must present your logical mind with irrefutable proof of its effectiveness. You become the chronicler of your silent miracles. Your practice is to keep a journal of whispers. You note the intuitive whisper and the date. You note the logical doubt that arose. You note the action you took, the act of faith. Crucially, you note the result, the synchronicity, that confirmed the guidance. This journal becomes your own sacred book, the irrefutable proof that a deeper wisdom is guiding you. The fourth practice, the muscle of inspired action, closing the circuit. Intuition without action is simple spiritual entertainment. Trust is built not only by listening but by acting. Every time you act on a whisper, you close the energy circuit. Your practice is the 5-minute rule. When you receive an intuitive whisper for a small action, if that action takes less than 5 minutes, you commit to doing it immediately. You do not give your logical mind time to debate and doubt. This habit builds the muscle of inspired action. It proves to the system that you are the sovereign who is in command, ready to co-create. Chapter 5. The Invisible Symphony, Synchronicity. The untrained mind, which lives imprisoned in the Valley of Echoes, inhabits a universe governed by chance. It sees the events of its life as isolated, random, and often frustratingly meaningless phenomena. If it thinks of an old friend and runs into them on the street an hour later, it calls it an incredible coincidence. If it is looking for a solution to a problem and casually overhears the answer in someone else's conversation in a coffee shop, it calls it a stroke of luck. It marvels for an instant, smiles at the strangeness of the event, and then forgets, blind to the pattern, deaf to the language, lost in a world it perceives as meaningless white noise. The initiate in the power of superconsciousness knows the truth. Chance does not exist. What the personal mind calls chance or coincidence is simply the orchestration of an intelligence it cannot perceive. It is like an ant walking over a magnificent Rembrandt painting, seeing the individual brushstrokes as random hills and valleys of paint, without having the perspective to see the magnificent portrait they compose. The psychiatrist Carl Jung, one of the great explorers of this orchestration, coined the term synchronicity to describe this phenomenon. He defined it as a causal connecting principle, two or more events that are connected in a meaningful way, not by a visible linear cause and effect relationship, but by the shared meaning they have for the observer. But from the perspective of superconsciousness, it is much more than that. Synchronicity is not a coincidence. It is the visible evidence of invisible orchestration. It is the universal mind, the great composer, moving the instruments of reality, the people, the places, the information, to create a harmony that aligns perfectly with the melody you are playing within. A synchronicity is not the universe responding to you as a separate entity. It is the universe revealing the symphony in which you are already participating. It is the sheet music becoming visible for an instant. This principle is not a mystical belief. It is the inevitable consequence of the nature of consciousness. If, as we have established, everything is a single universal mind, the ocean, then every event and every person, every wave, is not truly separate. Everything is interconnected at a fundamental level in the fabric of the space-time of consciousness. When you, as a focalized center of that consciousness, set a clear intention and align with it vibrationally, you are not sending a request to an external universe. You are introducing a new keynote into the symphony, and the entire orchestra, by the law of universal harmony, must adjust to that new note. The instruments, other people, that resonate with your new note are magnetically attracted to your experience. The melodies, the information you need to hear for your next step begin to sound around you. The stage and the circumstances is reconfigured to accommodate the new piece of music you have decided to play. Synchronicities are the proof that the composer has heard your note and is rewriting the score in real time to harmonize with you. You are not a solo musician. You are the soloist of a cosmic orchestra. The movements of the symphony. Types of synchronicity. The universe's orchestra communicates with you through different musical movements, different types of synchronicities that have distinct functions in your awakening. To become an expert listener, you must learn to recognize their three main forms: the confirmation movement, the harmonic, echo. These are often the first and most subtle synchronicities to appear after you have established a new intention. They are the harmonic echo of the universe, designed to strengthen your faith during the period of invisible gestation and let you know that your new note has been heard. Repeating numbers. You start seeing number sequences, 11, 11, 333, 5 and 35 everywhere. They are the universe's metronome, setting the tempo, telling you, you are on the right tempo. Keep going. Maintain the vibration. Personal symbols. The universe begins to speak to you in your own language, using the symbols of your own mind. You see a repeated animal, a symbol or a word that has a special meaning for you. It is a personal wink from the composer, a cosmic joke between you and the all-auditory resonance. You think of a question, and the first song you hear contains the answer in its lyrics. These signals are the prelude. They are the orchestra tuning its instruments before the great concert. They are the universe's way of telling you, trust, keep maintaining faith in the invisible. The magic is underway. The guidance movement, the conductor's melody. These synchronicities are more active. They don't just confirm your alignment. They show you the next note you must play. They are the conducting melody that the composer whispers to you, so you know where the symphony is going. They are the breadcrumbs on the path. Guidance through others. A friend out of nowhere mentions a book that contains the exact information you need. You meet someone who can open the door you long for. Guidance through information. You casually come across an article, a YouTube video, or a podcast that answers the question you had formulated to the ocean of superconsciousness that very morning. Guidance through impulse. Along with your intuition, you feel an inexplicable impulse to go to a certain place or take a different route. And by doing so, you encounter the opportunity or person you needed. The opportunity movement, the crescendo. Finally, as your energy becomes more coherent and sustained, the symphony reaches a crescendo. Synchronicities cease to be simple clues and become portals of opportunity. The unexpected job offer that aligns perfectly with the new career you had been visualizing, the ideal person who appears in your life at the most unexpected moment, the perfect house that appears on the market the same day you decide to start looking. These are not strokes of luck. They are the culmination of the orchestration. They are the doors that open wide because you followed the music to the right place at the right time. The first practice, cultivating the state of wonder, tuning the receiver. The universe's orchestra is playing constantly, but you can only hear its music if you are in the concert hall, not locked in the noisy, anxious basement of your own mind. Your first practice is not to seek signs. It is to cultivate the state of wonder, receptivity. The pause ritual. Several times a day you stop, for a single minute. You leave your phone, and you simply observe the world around you, not as a familiar and predictable place, but with the eyes of a child, with the curiosity of an explorer who has just landed on a new planet, the search for the anomalous. In that pause, you actively look for something that breaks the pattern of your habitual perception. The strange shape of a cloud, the unexpected color of a flower growing in a pavement crack. You are training yourself to notice. This is a neurological reset. It pulls you out of beta survival mode and puts you into alpha creation and receptivity mode. The second practice, the symphony journal, the score register. To strengthen your trust in this communication and learn to read the score of your life, you become the chronicler of your own symphony. Your practice is to keep a synchronicity journal. Every night, you write down the meaningful coincidences of the day. Note the signal. Context and gratitude. You note the signal, the context and the interpretation. You end each entry with a word of gratitude. Thank you for this sign. This diary over time becomes the irrefutable proof that you are not alone, that you do not live in a random universe. It becomes the record of your personal conversation with the cosmos, a document that your logical mind will not be able to deny. The third practice, dancing with the melody, confident action. Hearing the symphony is the first step. Having the courage to stand up and dance with it is the second and most crucial. Every synchronicity of guidance is an invitation to the dance of co-creation. The manifestation unfolds as a cascade of synchronicities that require your conscious and courageous participation. You must be willing to take a leap of faith when the note is played. Example, Elena the creator. Elena sets the intention to launch a new project. She sees a synchronicity, the name Ananda. Her logical mind protests, use the standard software. But her intuition gives her an expansive yes. She executes the command. She buys the ticket, she calls the expert, she follows the trail. The creator understands that life is a dance of co-creation. She sends the signal. The universe responds with a note. She takes the next inspired step. And the universe shows her the next note. The channel of synchronicity has been tuned. Coincidences have died, and in their place a vibrant, meaningful, and constant dialogue has been born. You have learned to read the universe's console. Chapter 6. The Art of the Sacred Question. The untrained mind, the one living prisoner in the Valley of Echoes, sees a question as a sign of ignorance, of weakness. For the ego, not knowing, is a threat to its identity as the one who is in control. That is why it rushes to fill every instant of silence with opinions, with old learned answers, with the noise of what it already thinks it knows. For the ego, an answer, however wrong, is safer than the void of an open question. But the initiate in the power of superconsciousness understands a fundamental law of the physics of consciousness. A clear, sincere question is the most potent void that can be created. Nature, as the ancients said, abhors a vacuum. And the universe, which is an ocean of infinite intelligence, is no exception. When you formulate a clear question, not from the anxiety of the ego seeking a quick fix, but from the humble, expansive curiosity of the soul, you are doing something miraculous. You are creating a vortex, a void of potential in the field of consciousness. And the universe, by its very nature of wholeness, is compelled to rush in to fill that void with an answer, with a solution, with a revelation. A sacred question is not a plea, it is an invocation. It is not an act of asking, it is an act of opening. You are not asking the ocean to give you a drop of water. You are presenting it with an empty cup, and the ocean, by its very nature, cannot help but fill it. The crucial difference, the victim's question versus the creator's question. The power of your question does not reside in the words you use, but in the consciousness from which you ask. Not all questions create a fertile void. Most questions we ask only serve to reinforce the walls of our prison. We must differentiate between the victim's question and the creator's question. 1. The victim's question, the echo of the valley. This is the question born of the ego, of the Valley of Echoes. Its energetic signature is powerlessness, complaint, contraction. Its structure always looks to the past and seeks external culprits. Why is this happening to me? This is the archetypal victim question. It does not seek an answer, it seeks a justification for suffering. It does not create a void, it reinforces the wall of self-pity. The universe, hearing this question, which is actually an affirmation of bad things happen to me, can only reflect back to you more reasons why this happens to you. Whose fault is it? This question keeps you trapped in the drama of separation and judgment. It is a question that seeks a scapegoat, not a solution. When will this end? This is a question of impatience that affirms your current state of suffering and your lack of power over it. It is the question of the prisoner looking at the bars, not the one looking for the key. The victim's question is a shout in the valley that can only generate an echo of its own pain. It keeps your attention fixed on the problem. 2. The creator's question, the call to the ocean. This is the question born of awakened consciousness, of the recognition that you are one with the ocean. Its energetic signature is power, curiosity, expansion. Its structure always looks toward possibility, learning, and growth. What is this situation teaching me? This question is an act of instant alchemy. It transforms a problem into a teacher. It changes your posture from victim to student. It invites the universe to reveal the hidden lesson. What is the hidden opportunity here? This question commands your perception, your reticular activation system, to stop scanning reality for the threat and start looking for the treasure. How can I serve in this situation? This is one of the most powerful questions. It pulls you out of the small, selfish drama of your personal self and aligns you with the purpose of superconsciousness, which is always the flow of love and service. What would it take for desired outcome to manifest with ease and grace? This is a question of pure possibility. It doesn't tell the universe how to do it. It simply opens the door to possibility, inviting synchronicity and magic to enter. The Creator's question is a call to the ocean. It is the empty cup that presents itself with humility and confidence, knowing it will be filled. The allegory of the two lost travelers. Imagine two travelers lost in a dark, dense forest. The first traveler, operating from victim consciousness, falls to his knees, pounds the ground with his fists, and shouts at the sky, "Why am I lost? Why is the forest so dark?" His question only generates an echo of his own despair. His attention is fixed on the darkness, on his condition of being lost. And the forest, like a mirror, only reflects back to him more of the same. The second traveler, operating from creator consciousness, is also lost. He feels the same initial fear, but instead of being consumed by it, he pauses. He accepts what is. I am lost in a dark forest. And in the stillness that follows acceptance, he formulates a sacred question. He doesn't ask why there is no light. He asks, where is the light? With this question, he has not changed the forest, but he has changed his perception completely. His mind, now focused by the question like a beam of light, begins to look not for the darkness, but for the light. And then he notices a small ray of moonlight filtering through the leaves in one direction. He notices the subtle glow of lichens on the trunk of a tree, which always grow on the north side, giving him a compass. The forest has not changed, but his question has converted the prison into a map. The first practice, the forging of the question. Clarity is power. You take your journal, and you write your question. You refine it. You distill it. You free it from all the emotional charge of the victim, from all complaint and all limiting assumptions. Instead of, why am I financially stuck, refine it to, what is the next most joyful step for my financial expansion? Instead of, will I ever find love? Refine it to, how can I more fully embody the love that I am so that my perfect reflection can find me? A clear, positive, high-vibration question is an aerodynamic arrow that flies straight to its target. Do not launch 10 questions at once. Choose one, the most important one, the one that, if answered, would solve or make irrelevant all the others. The second practice, the launch ritual. With your question forged, you must now launch it into the ocean. Not with the force of the ego that demands an answer, but with the grace of trust. Your practice is the handover ritual. Launch to the ocean. Enter your meditation. Calms the echoes of the valley. Hold your clear question in your mind, and with a deep exhale you release it. You hand it over to the vast ocean of superconsciousness. You imagine it dissolving in its infinite waters, like a drop of ink in the sea. And you seal it with the declaration of trust. Superconsciousness, universal mind, I hand this question over to you. I trust in your infinite wisdom. I await your answer with an open and patient heart. Thank you. Release the hook. Crucially, you completely let go of the need for an immediate answer. You have launched the question, you have released the hook. Now you don't stay on the shore, anxiously tugging at the line to see if anything has bitten. You trust that the ocean will bring the answer in its perfect time and in the perfect way. The third practice, the art of attentive reception. Once you have launched the question, your only job is to become the most attentive receiver in the world. Your practice is open attention. The ocean will not answer you with a voice from the sky. It will answer you through the channels you have already learned to tune into. Listen to the whisper. The answer will often arrive as a flash of intuition. Chapter 4. A sudden certainty when you are relaxed, in the shower, or walking. Observe the symphony. The answer will unfold through a cascade of synchronicities. Chapter 5. The right book will fall off the shelf. You will overhear the right conversation. You will meet the right person. Decode the dream. The nightly oracle may present you with the solution in the symbolic language of a dream. The fourth practice, the answer journal. To strengthen your trust in this dialogue, you keep a record. In your ocean journal, after writing your launched question, you leave a space. And when the answer arrives, through an intuition, a synchronicity, a dream, you return and write it down. This journal becomes your personal book of miracles. It is the irrefutable proof that you are not talking alone. It is the record of your developing conversation with the mind of the universe. Chapter 7. The Empty Cup on the Art of Receiving. We arrive at the most subtle, most paradoxical, and for the ego, most challenging law of all. A law that governs not how you ask, but how you receive. There is an ancient Zen parable that holds the key to this chapter. It tells the story of a scholar, a man famous for his intellect, a cup full of knowledge and opinions, who traveled over mountains to visit a master and learn about the nature of enlightenment. When he was received, the scholar did not ask. He declared. He spoke incessantly, expounding his theories about consciousness, quoting ancient scriptures, demonstrating his vast, complex knowledge. The master listened in silence, with total presence. And then, without saying a word, he motioned for him to sit and began serving him tea. He filled the scholar's cup to the brim, and without stopping, he continued pouring. The hot tea spilled over, running onto the table and over the scholar's hands, who jumped back, surprised and pained. "Master!" he exclaimed, shaking his hands. "What are you doing? The cup is already full. Nothing more can fit." The master stopped pouring, looked at him with deep calm and infinite compassion in his eyes, and said, "This cup is like your mind. It is so full of your own opinions and speculations that there is no room for anything new to enter. Come back to me when your cup is empty." This story is the first and last lesson of the initiate in the art of receiving. Since birth, we have been conditioned by a culture that values accumulation above all else. We accumulate knowledge. We accumulate experiences. We accumulate possessions. We accumulate certainties and opinions. We believe, in the deepest part of our programming, that the more we know, the more full we are, the wiser and more powerful we are. The ego delights in this idea. Its entire identity is built on what it knows. But the knowledge of the superconsciousness reveals the paradoxical truth. To be able to receive the new idea, the new solution, the new opportunity, the new version of yourself, you must first make space. You must first empty yourself. A mind that knows everything is a mind that has stopped learning. A full cup is a cup useless for the purpose of creation and revelation. It is in the void, in receptivity, in the humility of silence, where true power resides. The physics of the empty cup, receptivity as a frequency. This principle is not merely philosophical, it is a law of energy, of vibration. When your mind is full of judgments, rigid expectations, the need to be right, the incessant noise of the valley of echoes, your vibrational state is one of contraction and resistance. You are shouting at the universe, "I don't need anything new. I already know everything. My reality is this, and it cannot change." When, on the contrary, you cultivate a state of void, of curiosity, wonder, beginner's mind, your vibrational state is one of expansion and receptivity. You are an open channel, a magnetic vortex. You are telling the universe, "I am ready to receive. Surprise me. Show me something I don't know." And the universe, which always responds to your frequency, obeys. To the full and resistant mind, it reflects its own rigidity. It cannot receive synchronicities because its "I already know" filter dismisses them as coincidences. To the empty and receptive mind, the ocean of superconsciousness pours its secrets, the inspiration that solves the problem unexpectedly, the synchronicity that opens the door, the solution that appears from nowhere. The miracle cannot enter a space that is already occupied by the ego's arrogance. The anatomy of the full cup, the 3 stones of the ego. To be able to empty our cup, we must first be aware of the stones that fill it, the 3 great ego blockages that prevent us from receiving the universe's grace. 1. The stone of certainty, the "I already know." This is the arrogance of the intellect. It is the mind that, when faced with a new idea, immediately compares it with its existing knowledge and labels it impossible, nonsense, it didn't work before. This mind seeks only confirmation of what it already believes is true. 2. The sediment of the past, the I am like this. This dense sediment is made of the hardened cement of our personal history. It is the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves, the fixed labels we have accepted. I am shy. I am not a creative person. By clinging to these stories, we fill our cup with the stagnant water of the past, preventing the fresh, crystalline water of present potential from entering. 3. The sludge of control, the it has to be this way. This is the heavy sludge of rigid expectation. It is the mind that has decided exactly how, when, and through whom its desire must manifest. Any opportunity that does not fit its preconceived plan is discarded. This mind blinds itself to the magic and infinite creativity of the cosmos. The first practice, the art of not knowing, dissolving the stone of certainty. To dissolve the stone of certainty, you practice the art of not knowing. You become a devout practitioner of Shoshin, the beginner's mind. Adopt the mantra. Ask the sacred question, what if everything I think I know about this is wrong or incomplete? This question is a solvent that creates a fissure in the rock of your certainty. Practice empty listening. In conversations, listen with the sole intention of understanding the other's perspective, instead of preparing your rebuttal. You empty your cup to receive theirs. Embrace uncertainty. When faced with a problem, allow yourself for a time to simply not know. Say inwardly, I don't know the answer and that's okay. I am open for the solution to be revealed to me. This is not an act of ignorance, but of superior intelligence. The second practice, the dissolution of identity, releasing the sediment of the past. To release the stagnant water of the past, the stories of I am like this, you practice the dissolution of identity. The neti mantra. In your meditation, you repeat as a mantra, I am not my stories. With each repetition, you feel the old labels, the shy one, the failure, begin to lose their power. The sky and the clouds. You realize that you are not the story your mind tells. You are the consciousness that is aware of the story. You are the silent sky in which the clouds of your life pass. This de-identification is the act of freeing the past. The third practice, the surrender of destiny, dissolving the sludge of control. To dissolve the thick sludge of rigid expectation, you practice intelligent surrender. After you have set your sacred intention, you perform the final act of release, the miraculous clause. You add the clause that changes everything. I accept this or something better for my highest good and the good of all involved. This is not an act of doubt. It is an act of humility, recognizing that your vision is limited. By letting go of your attachment to the how and the when, you give the universe the freedom to orchestrate miracles on your behalf. The fourth practice, the question to the void, the oracle of silence. You do not empty yourself for the sake of being empty. You empty yourself to be filled by a higher intelligence. Once you have cultivated the state of void, you perform the purest act of reception. Launch the question. In the fertile silence, you launch a gentle question without expectations. What is my next inspired step? Or, show me the way. Listen to the void. You do not think or analyze. You simply remain in the void, in a state of total listening with your whole being. The answer will not come as a logical thought. It will arrive as an intuitive whisper, an image that floats in your mind, a serene knowing that emerges from nowhere. You have learned to stop shouting your plans at the universe and to start listening to its secrets. Telestron Chapter 8, The Movement of Grace, Inspired Action. In our culture, we have been conditioned to believe that action is synonymous with effort. It is the compulsive doing, the struggle, the going for it, the fundamental belief that I have to make things happen. The personal mind, the ego, sees itself as the doer, the solitary engine of creation, pushing the heavy rock of reality uphill along the mountain of life. This action, which we will call forced action, is born of fear and distrust. It is born of fear. Fear that if you stop, if you are not constantly doing something, nothing will happen. Fear of losing an opportunity. Fear of the judgment of others if they see you inactive. Fear of stillness. It is born of distrust. A deep, ingrained distrust of the flow of life. It is the belief that the universe is an indifferent or even hostile adversary that must be conquered, from which blessings must be snatched by the force of your will. Forced action is heavy, exhausting, and often surprisingly ineffective. It is the sound of resistance. It is rowing against the current. And although you may feel very productive, at the end of the day you feel drained because you have been fighting the universe instead of dancing with it. The initiate in the power of superconsciousness understands a radically different truth. He understands that he is not the doer. He is the channel. He is the dancer. True creation is not born of action. Action is born of creation. Inspired action, a movement of grace, is not something you do to the world. It is something the superconsciousness does through you. It is the ocean moving the wave. It is not born of fear. It is born of trust. It is not born of distrust. It is born of alignment. It is born of trust. An absolute trust that once the intention has been set and the guidance has been received, the vast machinery of the universe is already in motion, orchestrating events on the invisible plane. It is born of alignment. It is not a fight against the current, but a dance with it. Inspired action is light, energizing, and produces results that often seem miraculous, not because it is magic, but because it is efficient. It is the path of least resistance, the way of grace. The anatomy of grace. How to recognize an inspired movement, to become a master of this art, to stop being the exhausted rower and become the joyful dancer. You must learn to differentiate in your own body and in your own life the texture of these two forms of action. 1. It is a response, not an initiative. Forced action is an initiative born of the logical mind. You look at your situation, analyze your problems, and create a list of things you should do based on your past experience. It is a plan born of the past and projected toward the future. Inspired action, on the other hand, is a pious response. It is not born of a plan, but of a signal in the present moment. It is a response to the whisper of your intuition. It is a response to a synchronicity. It is a response to the sacred question you have formulated. The master of superconsciousness is like an expert surfer. The forced surfer tries to create a wave by splashing the water with his hands. It is an absurd act. The master surfer prepares. He sits on his board, cultivates his state of being. He observes the ocean with relaxed attention, remains in a state of receptivity, and he responds to the wave when it arrives. His action is not to create the wave, but to ride its immense power. Inspired action is the art of riding the waves of the universe. 2. It is joyful, not a burden. Forced action, being born of obligation and should, always feels like work, like a burden. It is heavy. Inspired action, being born of alignment with the soul and your purpose, always feels like a want to, like a game. It fills you with energy instead of draining it. It is the feeling of flow, that magical state where time disappears, the ego dissolves, and you feel completely absorbed by the task. Joy is the signature of inspired action. 3. It is timely, not urgent. Forced action is born of the ego's impatience. It wants the result now. Its energy is one of rush and anxiety. Inspired action operates in divine time, kairos. It has a quality of perfect timeliness, of absolute calm and certainty. The master does not anxiously ask, "What do I do now?" He maintains his state of being, and he waits for the impulse. And when the impulse arrives, the sudden idea, the call he feels he must make, he acts with total, immediate decision. He does not procrastinate. He does not doubt, because he knows that is the wave. The ego's action is noisy, heavy, and rushed. The soul's action is silent, light, and timely. Saisunori, the first practice, the body compass as verifier. Superconsciousness sends you the impulse to act through the channel of intuition, but your personal mind, with its echoes of fear and doubt, will often try to imitate or distort the signal. How do you know if the impulse to quit your job is divine guidance or an act of ego sabotage fleeing a challenge? You consult your infallible oracle, your body. Your practice is somatic verification. The soul's impulse. A true inspired impulse, even if it is terrifying to your logical mind, will feel expansive in your body. You will feel a kind of excited nervousness, an opening in your chest, a feeling of lightness, of energy flowing upward. It is the body saying, yes, this is the wave, it's scary, but it's the right one. The ego's impulse. An impulse born of fear. I must do this or something bad will happen. Of lack or of ego rebellion, no matter how logical it seems, will feel contractive. You will feel a knot in your stomach, a tension in your shoulders, a feeling of have to instead of want to. It is the body saying, no, danger. This is born of resistance, not flow. Before any important action, pause. Feel the idea in your body, and trust the response of your somatic compass above all the arguments of your mind. The second practice, obedience to the illogical, following the breadcrumbs. The guidance of superconsciousness does not follow the ego's linear logic. Its wisdom is quantum. It sees connections and shortcuts that your personal mind cannot see. Therefore, inspired action will often seem illogical, a waste of time, a distraction. Your practice is obedience to the illogical. It is the act of faith that proves to the universe that you trust its guidance over your own limited map. Imagine an architect who is blocked. She has exhausted all known solutions. One day, in her meditation, she receives an impulse. Not a solution, but an image, a dusty old antique market. Her logical mind protests, I have a deadline, I don't have time for shopping, I should stay here and keep working. But she has learned to listen. She feels the impulse in her body. It is light, curious, expansive. It's a yes. She obeys the impulse. At the market, another prompt, an impulse to look at an old Art Deco brooch. Its geometric design fascinates her. In that instant, the eureka moment occurs. The solution to her complex architectural problem is revealed in her mind, complete and perfect, inspired by the design of that old forgotten brooch. The illogical 2-hour trip saved her 2 months of fruitless struggle. She did not find the solution. She allowed the solution to find her. The third practice, releasing the map, intention without an agenda. Finally, to live permanently in the movement of grace, you must let go of your attachment to the map. You must stop planning your life from the ego's mind with rigid, step-by-step certainty. Your practice is intention without an agenda. The direction, intention. Every morning you set your intention. Not a to-do list, but a direction, a state of being. My intention today is to be a channel for creativity and abundance. The receptivity, the void. And then you release the how. You don't plan every step of your day. You live your day in a state of open attention, of receptivity, ready to respond to the waves of inspiration that will inevitably arrive. You have a direction, but you are willing for the wind to take you on the most surprising and joyful route. The ego's action is heavy, based on an anxious need for control. The soul's action is light, based on a joyful trust in the flow. The qasd of inspired action has been revealed to you. You have learned to stop being the rower who fights the current and to become the surfer who dances with the waves. Chapter 9. The End of the Seeker. Who is the seeker? It is the central identity of the spiritual ego. It is a mask, a personality that at first glance seems noble, dedicated, and admirable. It is the self that seeks God, that seeks enlightenment, that seeks abundance, that seeks healing. But we must, with the honesty of a soul surgeon, examine the wound hidden beneath this sacred disguise. The seeker identity, no matter how spiritual it may seem, is born from a single root belief. the fundamental belief of the Valley of Echoes. I am separate. I am incomplete. What I seek is out there. The seeker is, by definition, a being who operates from lack. His very identity is based on not having. I seek peace is a vibrational declaration that affirms with immense force, I am not peace. I seek abundance is a declaration that affirms, I live in scarcity. I seek enlightenment is the definitive declaration that I am in darkness. The trap of the search, the infinite mirror. And this is where the universe, in its perfect and impersonal wisdom, reveals the trap to us. The universe, as we have learned, is a mirror. It does not give you what you ask for with your words. It reflects what you are vibrationally. If your dominant state of being, your fundamental identity, is that of a seeker, what can the universe reflect back to you? It can only reflect back to you a reality in which you are always searching. The universe, in its perfect obedience to your signal, will give you more clues to search for, more teachers to find, more books to read, more workshops to attend. It will give you flashes of truth, moments of clarity, but it will always present you with a spiritual carrot that seems to be a step away. It will keep you in the game of searching, because that is the identity you have chosen to embody. Why? Because if you ever reached the destination, if you ever found what you were looking for permanently, the identity of the seeker would die, and the ego, the veil of forgetting, cannot allow this death. It is its last and most cunning trench. Therefore, the spiritual ego is the most sophisticated of all. It has turned the very tool of your liberation, the spiritual search, into the most sophisticated mechanism of your prison. It keeps you running on a hamster wheel, making you believe that every step brings you closer to the goal, without realizing that the wheel is designed precisely so that you never arrive. The awakening of the self, from seeking to being. The end of the seeker is not a moment of achievement. It is a moment of cessation. It is the moment when the pilgrim, exhausted from walking from seeking paradise on the mountaintop, stops, sits under a tree, and, in the silence of his surrender, realizes that the paradise he was seeking has always been beating in his own chest. The leap to mastery, the true embodiment of superconsciousness power, happens when you change your identity. You stop being a seeker of truth, and you dare to be the truth. You stop seeking peace, and you realize that you are the silence that observes the chaos. You stop seeking love, and you realize that you are the space in which all the universe's love occurs. The moment you stop searching, the moment you declare your arrival, the moment you plant your flag in the here and now out of your own being, the dynamic is completely inverted. The mirror changes. The universe, which previously reflected your incessant search, must now by law begin to reflect your found wholeness. Now that you have seen the trap of searching, that you have understood that your identity as a seeker is the only barrier separating you from what you seek, we move from understanding to embodiment. How do you stop searching? You don't do it with effort. You do it with surrender. The following practices are not to get anywhere. They are to anchor you in the place where you already are. The first practice, the seeker's audit, making the wheel visible. Before you can get off the hamster wheel, you must first become aware that you are on it. Your practice is the seeker's audit. You take your journal, and with radical honesty, you answer these questions. What am I looking for? List everything you believe you need to find to be happy: peace, purpose, partner, abundance. What do I believe will happen when I find it? Describe the fantasy. What will change in my life and being when I finally have it? What part of me is afraid of finding it? This is the master's question. Be honest. Would finding peace mean you have to stop complaining, thus losing a way to connect with others? Would finding your purpose mean you have to take on a responsibility that scares you? This exercise will reveal the hidden benefit of continuing the search, the reason your ego clings to the seeker identity. The second practice, the declaration of arrival, the end of the path. Once you have seen the seeker's game, you can choose to abandon it. Not because you have failed, but because you have realized that it is a game that cannot be won. This practice is a ritual of identity change. In the stillness of your meditation or in your journal, you make a formal declaration to the universe and your own self. I, your name, the seeker, after a long and honorable journey, have arrived. The search is over. I declare that everything I was looking for, peace, love, wisdom, abundance, already resides within me, in its totality. From this moment on, I stop searching, and I begin to be. Feel the relief of this declaration. Feel the weight lifted from your shoulders. You have stopped being the pilgrim and have become the sanctuary. The third practice, living from the destination, the question of being. Once you have declared your arrival, your way of operating in the world changes completely. Your guiding question is no longer the seeker's question, but the question of being. The seeker asks, "How can I find peace?" The being asks, "What would the peace that I am do in this situation?" The seeker asks, "How can I attract abundance?" The being asks, "How would the abundance that I am express itself right now?" Perhaps the answer is an act of generosity, not one of acquisition. This simple inversion of the question pulls you out of the frequency of lack and anchors you in the frequency of expression. You stop trying to obtain and you begin to radiate. The fourth practice, finding the treasure in the now. The final antidote to the disease of searching is the radical anchoring in the wholeness of the present moment. The seeker lives always in the future, in the promise of the when it arrives. The being lives in the richness of the kana. Your practice is the treasure hunt in the present. Throughout your day, instead of looking for what is missing, you deliberately look for the evidence that what you were seeking is already here, even if in a small form. If you are seeking abundance, don't focus on the bank account. Feel the abundance in the warmth of the sun, in a cup of tea, in the air you breathe freely. If you were seeking love, don't focus on the absence of a partner. Feel the love in the smile of a stranger, in the loyalty of your pet, in the act of caring for yourself. By finding the essence of what you were seeking in the simplicity of the now, you prove to your subconscious and the universe that the search is over. Chapter 10. I am that. Throughout this journey, so that the logical mind could follow the map, we have used the metaphor of the ocean of genius, superconsciousness, and the wave, your personal mind. We have learned as a wave to listen to the ocean, to receive its guidance and to dance with its currents. But even in this beautiful metaphor, a subtle and fundamental separation persists. The wave still feels itself to be a wave, an individual entity interacting with the ocean. The final revelation, the truth that lies at the heart of all forbidden wisdom, is the dissolution of this duality. Imagine the wave. It is born in the stillness of the sea, takes a unique and magnificent form, travels on the surface with an apparent purpose, and then dissolves back into the shore, returning to the immensity from which it emerged. From the wave's perspective, its life is a tragic, finite timeline. It has a beginning and an end. It is afraid of dying by crashing onto the sand. It feels separate, at the mercy of the great currents and unpredictable winds. But from the ocean's perspective, nothing has been born and nothing has died. Nothing has really changed. The wave was made of nothing but ocean water. Its form was temporary, but its substance was eternal. The wave was not simply in the ocean. The wave was the ocean, experiencing itself in a specific form and location for a glorious moment. You are that wave. And the veil of forgetting, Chapter 2, is the illusion that makes you identify with the form, with your body, your name, your personal history, forgetting the substance. The revelation of the ocean of genius, Chapter 3, was the first step. The wave realized it was a part of something bigger. And the revelation of this final chapter, the 33rd degree awakening, is this. The wave realizes that it is not a part of the ocean. It is the ocean. I am that. At this level of understanding, the I am ceases to be a manifestation technique. It stops being an affirmation you use to attract something from outside in. An affirmation implies a duality. There is an I who wants and a thing that is wanted. The declaration I am is an act of identity. It is the recognition of non-duality. It is the dissolution of separation. You do not say, "I am rich," to attract money. You say, "I am wealth," because you recognize that you, as pure consciousness, are the source of all possible experience, including that of wealth. Wealth is not something you acquire. It is a facet of your own infinite being that you choose to experience now. You do not say, "I am healthy," to heal your body. You say, "I am perfect health," because you recognize that your true identity is the perfect field of energy and intelligence that animates the body. When you operate from this level, you stop programming reality. You simply choose the reality you wish to experience, recognizing it as a facet of your own infinite self. Effort disappears. Struggle becomes impossible. How could you fight to get something that you already are in your essence? This is the state the Masters spoke of, the Sabbath or rest. It is the end of the Creator's work, because the Creator has remembered that creation is already finished, contained within his own infinite consciousness. His only work is to choose which aspect of his own totality he will illuminate with his attention. The first practice, the dissolution of doing, the end of technique. The moment the magician realizes that he is the dreamer, the techniques become obsolete. Why would a dreamer need a technique to change his own dream? He simply decides that the tree is there. His intention and the manifestation are a single event. The Master's practice is no longer about doing the manifestation, it is about being the manifestation. The need to program dissolves into the simple and sovereign act of choosing. You have practiced the scales so much that you no longer think about them. You simply become the music. The second practice, the art of being, the conscious choice of identity. The only practice left for the lucid dreamer is the conscious choice of his identity, moment by moment. You no longer ask, "How can I program abundance?" You ask a much simpler and more powerful question, "Who do I choose to be now?" And in the stillness of your sacred terminal, which is now your natural state of being, you choose. You don't try to attract peace. In the midst of chaos, you pause, remember who you are, and choose, "I am peace." And in that instant of recognition, peace is. Your job is simply to choose the avatar you want to be in this moment of the game, and the universe, which is the graphics engine of your own dream, instantly renders the reality that corresponds to that avatar. The external world becomes the immediate reflection of your choice of being. The third practice, the universe as self, the end of separation. This realization completely transforms your relationship with the world. The external world stops being an other, a mirror to be read, or a system to be programmed. You begin to see it, to feel it, as an extension of yourself. Nature is no longer a place you visit. It is your own body dreaming in the form of trees, rivers, and mountains. The people in your life are no longer others. They are other avatars of yourself, playing a perfect role for your awakening. The difficult master is no longer an adversary. You recognize him as a character you yourself wrote into the script to challenge your main character. The challenges are no longer bugs to be eliminated or failures to be lamented. You see them as plot points that you yourself, as the dreamer, wrote to make the game more interesting. From this perspective, struggle becomes impossible. How could you fight yourself? Complaint becomes absurd. Instead, a deep sense of unconditional love is born, and a playful joy. The world ceases to be a battlefield and becomes your canvas, your symphony, your playground. Imagine a single drop of water in the middle of the vast ocean. During its entire existence, it has identified as a drop. It feels small, separate, at the mercy of the great waves. It spends its life trying to attract more water, fighting to stay afloat. One day, in a moment of deep stillness, the drop has a revelation. It realizes that its dropness is a temporary illusion. Its true nature, the substance it is made of, is water. And that water is exactly the same substance that makes up the entire ocean. In that instant of realization, everything changes. It is no longer a drop in the ocean. It is the ocean, experiencing itself as a drop. Its fear disappears. Its struggle ceases. How could it fear drowning if it is the water? How could it feel lack if it is the source of all abundance? It no longer needs to attract anything. It simply is. and by being, it possesses in its essence all the power and majesty of the ocean. You are that drop, and the realization of the I am is the moment you remember that you are the ocean. The philosopher's stone has been revealed to you. The final secret is that there is no secret, there is only recognition. There is no process to become divine, there is only stopping the pretense that you are not. Our journey began in the Valley of Echoes, trapped in the repetition of a personal mind we believed was all that existed. Together we tore the veil of forgetting and gazed, for the first time, at the vast ocean of genius. We learned to listen to the whisper of the inner sage, to read the invisible symphony of synchronicity, and to master the art of the sacred question. We prepared the empty cup to receive the answer, and learned to move with the movement of grace. This path led us to the end of the seeker, to the dissolution of the identity that searches, to arrive at the culminating revelation, the deepest and most liberating of all. I am that. You have completed the journey. You have reached the summit of the mountain. But the final revelation, the secret that the summit whispers to the wind, is that the goal was never simply to reach the peak. The goal was for you to remember that you are the entire mountain. The journey was not for you to connect with superconsciousness. It was for you to remember that you are superconsciousness, experiencing yourself in the magnificent adventure of your life. The wave has remembered that it is the ocean. The dream has remembered that it is the dreamer. Your journey of learning has ended. Your life as an embodiment of this wisdom begins now. Your practice is no longer to seek answers. It is to be the answer. Your question every morning is no longer, what will the universe bring me today, but what aspect of my own infinitude do I choose to express today? Walk through the world, not as someone who seeks guidance, but as the guidance itself. Your peace is the answer to the world's anxiety. Your clarity is the answer to its confusion. Your love is the answer to its fear. Your life becomes the oracle. If this journey to the mind beyond the mind has awakened the ocean within you, we invite you to continue this exploration. Subscribe to our channel, Path of Knowledge, for more wisdom that expands the self. Like this video if you have remembered that you are the ocean. Share this knowledge with someone who is ready to stop being a wave and remember their true nature. Thank you for your time, for your openness, and for the brave decision to reclaim your divinity. You no longer seek answers in the world. Your own life, lived from this knowledge, becomes the answer itself.